Alright, so we're going to be playing a new game on the pod this week. It's called Valid or Invalid. Shout out Breadbasket for putting me onto this game. It's very fire. So basically how it's going to go, I'm going to read him a statement and he's going to tell me if it's valid or invalid and why. So starting off, the Vikings made a mistake losing Sam Darnold.
I know your stance on this take, and I'm not trying to overthink it, but I'm going to say invalid for the sake of if you want a game managing benefits from the system quarterback like Darnold, there are cheaper guys than $30 million, and I love it for the Seahawks that he got a Baker deal. He basically got a 1 year, if we hate you, we can pivot out of you deal. But at the same time, Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback guy. Whatever he saw in Darnold that he's pivoting out of and, choosing to go all in on McCarthy or somewhere else, I tend to lean with that, in addition to the fact that, we haven't seen McCarthy play since preseason, but people loved him in preseason. This Vikings team looks really good, man. It's not quite that super team potential, but, if Addison takes another step up, they have Aaron Jones back. Did they pick up another back? Can't even remember.
I think they did. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Regardless, this is a loaded draft class for RBs, and their defense was, top 5 last year, probably will continue to be under Flores. Save the $30 million. That's really all I have to say.
My thing about McCarthy is he wasn't asked to do anything at Michigan. His pass attempts per game were 18. When they played Ohio State in the big game, I think it was his last year there, maybe the year before. They threw it 3 times, or they went 3 quarters straight, or some crazy stat like that without even throwing the ball. And you see Mac Jones have 3 pass attempts in a snow game against Buffalo 3 years ago, and it's okay, so the Patriots don't trust the guy. You see on the other side of the field, the Bills trust Josh Allen to carry this offense through bizarre circumstances. Patriots don't trust this guy. So we're going to take the ball out of his hands, we're going to run it every play. And we saw Michigan do the same thing. And the fact that he got drafted so high and is expected to exceed what Darnold did last year, which was a top 5 MVP candidate, is just insane to me.
Do you think the fear is that they reached on McCarthy at pick 9 or whatever they traded up to get? Because they traded up multiple times. They jumped from whatever they were at, 18 to 15 to 12 to 9. And all that to get a guy who they might not be sold on. They're trying to not have a QB competition at all. They want him to start this year so that they know if they need to pivot off right away. Because this window of the Vikings being a fun 14-win team with an elite DC and an elite head coach, offensive head coach, it's closing. Flores is going to be a head coach next year more than likely. I expected it this year personally.
Yeah.
And a lot of your talent is just going to look for more money elsewhere. Jefferson just got extended, but Addison's going into year 3 right now. What happens when he decides to ask for top receiver 2 money or borderline receiver 1 money somewhere else? So because of that, I could understand wanting to put as little pressure on your quarterback as possible and say, hey, we're giving you all the tools here. It's up to you how much you want to get paid in a few years. It's up to you if you want to be the starter for the Vikings.
I just think that, I'm always saying when you have a guy in the building that you see perform at a high level, you gotta hold on to him. You can't let him go. And Sam Darnold just had one of those seasons last year. And I don't think one bad playoff game should scare you away from that kind of production. But going back to the running back thing that you asked me about, they did sign Jordan Mason from the Niners.
I love that.
Me too.
I love Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. That's an elite backfield.
25 years old. It's very
elite backfield.
Yes, 100%.
And McCarthy's great at handing the ball off.
Yes, he is.
So having that elite backfield, and then you look at the fact, they had the guy in the building with Sam Darnold until the playoffs. McCarthy is good in the playoffs, at least in the college playoffs. So if you're looking for a high-pressure performer, just somebody with a steady hand who can hand the ball off and go for 10 pass attempts, he's capable of doing that. Anybody's capable of finding Justin Jefferson for, 5 to 10 receptions a game. Jordan Addison in the mix every few games. I don't think McCarthy's going to have huge struggles this year, other than the fact that the NFC North is incredibly difficult to get out of.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think You actually just reminded me about the pass attempts thing. Like, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo have like 8 pass attempts in a playoff game in like the NFC Championship a couple years back.
He went to the Super Bowl with that.
He did go to the Super Bowl with that, but like, in my head, what makes JJ McCarthy miles ahead of Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, he's mobile.
Nothing yet, but he could be way better.
He's faster, and he's probably more mobile than Purdy is, but like, Garoppolo's throwing with Purdy's legs. Is that JJ McCarthy? Because in my head, that's what I think you're getting, but I don't know.
Agreed to disagree.
Yeah. Next up, valid or invalid, Kevin Durant is better than Steph Curry all time.
Invalid.
Invalid.
KD's a unicorn, man, but Steph is the undisputed best at what he does, and I don't think you can overlook that.
You could make the argument that Kevin Durant is the best scorer of the basketball of all time. And some people will say LeBron because he has the point record that's never going to be touched again.
Right.
But if you told me you need a bucket, it can be a 2, a 3, layup, mid-range, doesn't matter. Who are you picking? I'm taking Kevin Durant.
That's totally fair, and I understand that, but it'd be like, for a football comp, it'd be like saying Steph is Jerry Rice, KD is, I don't know, Deion Sanders. Who are you taking all time?
Well, they play different positions, so that's kind of hard to say.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is that you're comparing two things that are just so vastly different. And with one, you have insane variety, athleticism. With KD, like a unicorn. With Steph, though, the absolute best at his craft.
I think this argument would have more validity to it had Steph not won against Boston in 21 or 22 and got his first Finals MVP, because prior to that, Iggy had the first Finals MVP. The Cavs came back and beat him in 16, and it kind of seemed like the Cavs had the momentum in that dogfight of a series over the course of the 2010s. And LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, it seemed like they were going to handle business, and they had to call Big Bro. Yo, Kevin, come save us. Comes in the building, steals the spotlight from Steph. Steph still performed well in those playoffs, but Kevin Durant's the one who got those 2 Finals MVPs. And yeah, you can say, oh, he never wins the Finals if he doesn't go to Golden State. But a lot of what ifs. But I don't know. Me personally, I'm taking Kevin Durant over Steph Curry all the time.
Agreed.
Valid or invalid? The Chiefs dynasty is over.
Invalid. Pat's on a 10-year deal, and he's like 3 years into it. So you're talking soft rebuild. Wait for Kelsey to retire, because he's not going to retire now. You're just going to have to wait till the end of his deal. You trade out of Joe Thuney. You try to get some real receiver help other than Xavier Worthy. You wait for another opportunity to secure a long-term back. You rebuild that defense a little bit, and they're right back in the mix, man. Like,
how long is that process to do all of those things, though?
2 years, realistically. I mean, the Chiefs front office has been very active, and like, the moment that they see Rashee Rice's, Rashee Rice has troubles with the law, and they're saying bring in Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins mid-season last year.
I was going to say,
now Xavier Worthy is on the way out.
Yeah, he's got his own issues to worry about.
I mean, a lot of people want to play with Pat Mahomes. DeAndre Hopkins wanted to do it. That was his real first and only opportunity to get a ring. Love that for him. There's going to be more opportunities for them to strike while the iron maybe isn't so hot, take off the pressure of a three-peat. They can rebuild a little bit, and I think by the end of Pat's deal, they have 1 or 2 more Super Bowl appearances. And that's his current contract.
I hear what you're saying. We don't know the future of Rashee or Worthy definitively. Hollywood's re-signed for now. Kelsey, this is his last season.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, does he have 3 more seasons in him? Does he have 5 more seasons in him? How much longer into Pat's deal are you going to have Andy Reid? Because I think once he's gone, this is a whole different discussion. This is an entirely different perspective of how the AFC looks. Because without Andy Reid, I don't think Mahomes is, unless they hire a very quality guy to replace him, this is a totally different conversation.
That's a very great point to raise. And with that, there's really 2 career paths that it could be, because Brady has Belichick his whole career, one of the greatest head coaches of all time, one of the greatest defensive minds of all time, versus Aaron Rodgers has Mike McCarthy, who he didn't love. Mike didn't love him. They got along. They won a ring. But Mike McCarthy was never that greatest of all time at whatever he does caliber coach. So when he leaves and they bring in Matt LaFleur, and Matt's young and he's dynamic and he hates Aaron Rodgers, and there's beef there, and they split off, and then Rodgers goes to Robert Saleh, and then Saleh gets fired, and then he has Jeff Ulbrich as the interim, and now he's going probably to Pittsburgh to play with Tomlin. Tomlin's in that greatest defensive head coaches, Mount Rushmore probably. But is it going to work out with Matt Canada? Maybe not. Rodgers is in head coach and OC purgatory, partially by his own choice, but partially just because he didn't have that guy from day one that wanted to play with him, that recognized his talent. And Andy Reid obviously has been a huge part of Pat Mahomes' development, but Mahomes is going to be able to take whoever he wants at head coach. Like, if he gives John Harbaugh a call and he says, hey, come to Kansas City, I mean, maybe that's a bad example because Lamar's already there, but Kyle Shanahan. If they don't have a franchise quarterback, you don't mean to tell me that Shanahan wants to come coach Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, that'd definitely be an interesting pair for sure. I don't know, man. It'll definitely be interesting to see how Kansas City fares post Andy Reid. But anyway, valid or invalid? This is Tyreek Hill's last season with Miami.
I'm going to say valid. I think contractually it is. Is it not?
No, I believe he's got a couple more.
Because it was a 2-year extension last year, but I don't know if he had any left before that.
Let's take a look. They agreed to a restructured contract in August of last year, guaranteeing him $65 million over the next 3.
Okay, so he's got 2 more.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle deserves to be a receiver 1.
Amen,
For
brother.
the Miami Dolphins. He
Amen.
deserves to have a real receiver 2, and Tyreek Hill is incapable of being a receiver 2. He's a receiver 1, or he's going to retire or be washed. I don't know that Mike McDaniel is ever going to see it that way. But if you want Tua, while he's getting paid $55 million, to ever look good, and if you want Jalen Waddle to ever live up to his potential, and if you want Devon Achane to ever live up to his potential, you need Tyreek Hill out of that building.
I agree.
Other than 2023, it's never going to work.
Yeah, if the question is, have we seen the best version of Tyreek Hill with Miami? I think that's absolutely valid. That 2023 season was
1,800 yards.
That's some of the best football I've ever seen Miami play in my lifetime. Coming from a Jalen Waddle Glazer, definitely want to see him get an increase in production, increase in field time. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't know if Miami goes far this year based on the free agency acquisitions they've made. We got to see what they do in the draft, but defense is very questionable. They've done some things to shore up the O-line that I'm excited for, but I don't know how the defense looks next year. It wasn't good last year, despite what the statistics say, and they lost a lot of key talent. So, I don't know. Another lackluster year for Miami, and maybe he demands out again. So, we'll see. Last one.
Okay.
Valid or invalid? Dak Prescott should have won MVP over Lamar Jackson.
In 2023, that's absolutely valid. And I'll argue. I'm guessing you're asking because you already know my stance and you want to argue about it.
Just want to hear your thought process.
You turn on the film, and Lamar was a good playmaker, but the stats don't reflect it. Because he had a good backfield and a really good defense, like a top 5 defense that year. So it was absolutely the best team in the league. And was he the best player on that team? Yes, by a long shot. But he had 24 passing touchdowns. And Dak had no more turnovers, and he had 38 passing touchdowns, which was a wide margin above second place in the league that year. Tack on 1,500 more passing yards, and subtract 200 rushing yards and like no rushing touchdowns.
What was the record discrepancy, if you can remember?
Ravens were 13-4 or 14-3, and Cowboys were 12-5.
This was the same year that it was like Lamar and Purdy were head to head, and then Lamar and the Ravens like beat the brakes off of San Francisco late in the year, and so that catapulted him.
It was Dallas beat Philly in the rematch, and Dak was the MVP favorite for 1 week, and then got their butts beat by somebody. I think the Bills. And then it became, Lamar and Purdy head-to-head until the head-to-head. And that's when nobody believed in Brock Purdy anymore until the Super Bowl for some reason. But, we saw that played out.
Narrative is a huge thing when it comes to MVP awards, obviously. Statistics matter, but the fact that San Francisco was like, I believe they were the overwhelming favorite to come out of the NFC that year. And the fact that Lamar went into their building and beat them by like 30. And by the beginning of the third quarter, they were up by like 4 scores. Narratives matter and storylines matter. And at that point in time, like we saw it with Josh this year when they beat Kansas City, who's like this juggernaut. 4th and whatever, that amazing play that he had where he took it to the goal line.
That was about when it was locked up.
Right. So those kind of things shift MVP races and award races in general in one direction or the other. And I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong for thinking that Dak deserved it on a statistical standpoint. But because of Lamar's dominance, and he upset one of the best teams in the league that year, and Dak seems to never beat a winning team. I think it made sense, personally. I think Lamar deserved it.
I think it was expected. It was definitely foreseeable. But there was a week when Dak was the MVP favorite, and it was absolutely understandable why, and it just wasn't talked about in the media. And I think that has more to do with the star on his helmet than the type of football that he plays. Because yes, we had 5 losses that regular season, 1 in the postseason, and that set us at like 2-4 against winning teams that year. Even still, Dak sat out of like 10 fourth quarters that year. We're talking about SGA being first in scoring and second in scoring if you subtracted all of his fourth quarters. Like, that's the kind of stat line that we were seeing from Dak that year. That's incredible to me.
I understand what you're saying. Both of our teams tend to struggle beating good competition. And I believe it was that year where Miami and Dallas did match up late in the year.
Christmas Eve.
Yes.
19
and
to 20.
Dallas went into Miami, and Miami managed to upset them. That was a terrible game. But like, those are the things that I'm talking about, though, is like, this Miami's another team that can't beat good competition. And you go into their building, it's December, it's good weather.
Yeah.
And Dak puts up 19 points. Like, those things are notable when it comes to MVP races, because not only do you drop a game that matters in the MVP race, but the way that they lost the game.
You spread a narrative about your caliber of play.
Yes, you can't beat another poser in Miami. Yeah, so.
Agree to disagree.
Common theme this episode, but I think that'll do it.
All right.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for checking out episode 13, and we'll catch you in the next one.